Look at her. So perfect. But where is the secret behind the perfect homemade pizza? You need a good hydration, of course. Ooh, and the Crustello. Open the app and log in with your username and password. Select a recipe or build one yourself with your specific requirements. Place the bowl on the scales and reset to 0. Add the required amount of yeast, in this case 2.04 grams. Pour in 200 grams of water and mix well. We added a little honey to speed up the initial fermentation. Then add the required amount of flour, 200 grams. Mix well until smooth. Place the sensor in the bowl opening. Activate it, select the preferment, in our case is poolish, and the amount you have placed in the bowl, and start recording. We place the preferment at room temperature to start the fermentation process. We had previously done autolysis. Autolysis is mixing the amount of flour and water until the water is completely absorbed and leaving it in the refrigerator depending on the temperature, the hydration of the dough, and the desired result. We put the autolysis in the Crustello proofing bowl, press it lightly with our fingers, and pour in the pre-ferment. We start kneading by mixing the dough so that the preferment can bond with the autolysis until it becomes a homogeneous mixture. We add 15 grams of salt and 30 grams of water and continue kneading until the water and salt are completely absorbed. Remove the dough from the bowl and continue kneading to develop the gluten and its strength. Use the slap and fold technique. Slap it on the counter, then fold it over. Kneading continues for 12 to 15 minutes. You can let it rest for a short while and then continue a little longer until you get a smooth, shiny, and non-sticky dough. You can use a spray bottle and wet your hands to avoid the sticky surface of the dough. To check if the dough has been kneaded well, perform the window pane test. Carefully pick up the dough with wet hands and stretch it until a thin membrane forms without tearing. This test is performed on flours that contain gluten. Now it's time for bulk fermentation. Form a ball by folding the dough and pulling it gently across the counter so that it closes at the bottom. Place the ball in the bowl and gently press the edges. We activate the Crustello Smart Sensor and select dough, then the correct weight of the dough as described in the recipe, and start. We monitor the fermentation. We monitor the rising of the dough in the app and receive messages that we have set as mandatory notifications. Leave the bowl with the dough at room temperature for 2 hours and then in the refrigerator for 12 hours. The next morning, we take the dough out of the refrigerator. It has grown 2.5 times. We pour the dough onto the counter and using a scale and a dough knife, cut it into 4 equal parts according to the recipe. With very light movements, form balls by sliding them on the surface, shape them, and place them in a container for subsequent rising for 12 hours in the refrigerator. The next day, remove the dough from the refrigerator and leave it at room temperature for 2 hours. Preheat the oven to 260 degrees Celsius with the fan on and place a pizza baking tray on the bottom of the oven to heat up. Remove the balls one by one, which have risen and filled the container in which they are placed. Place the ball lightly rolled out in another container with flour and begin to stretch and shape the pizza. Once you have started shaping the pizza, place it on baking paper and continue to shape it into a circle by pulling from the center to the edges, forming a rim and making an even circle. Add tomato sauce and sprinkle with cheese of your choice. Pull the pizza on the paper onto a board together with the paper. Then pull the paper with the pizza onto the baking tray and start baking. Bake in an oven at 260 degrees with a fan. You can measure the temperature with a thermometer. Bake for 8 to 10 minutes until lightly browned and remove the baked pizza by pulling the paper onto a board. Leave the pizza on a rack to cool for 3 minutes and add the toppings as desired.